Hello, friends. That's right. I'm not Jim Nance. I'm Kurt Berglund with a major Pine Tar baseball announcement for you today. That's right. It's Pine Tar baseball announcement time. Wake the kids, phone the neighbors. Or is it wake the neighbors and phone the kids? It's one of those two, or it could be both. All right, I'm announcing today the two next seasons for Pine Tar Baseball that I have already begun work on, with an anticipated release date for both seasons of December 15th, on or about December 15th, 2021. Take that, Barbara Walters. Take that. All right, the first season to be released on December 15th, 2021, or thereabouts, is the 1920 baseball season. This was a memorable and important baseball season. I'd even call it a watershed season. That's right, I went there. Watershed. Google that. Watershed. That's right. All right, 1920 in the National League. Let's tell you a little bit about it. The Brooklyn Robins, who were the winners of the National League pennant in 1920 with a 93 and 61 record. They were managed by a man named Wilbert Robinson, and they finished in first place by 7 games over the second place New York Giants, who were still led at that time by John McGraw. The stars of the Brooklyn Robins that won the National League pennant were Zach Wheat with a .328 batting average, and the ace pitcher on the mound was Burleigh Grimes. Grimes was their ace with a 2.22 ERA, and of course later became the last legal spitballer, and even more important than that, is a Wisconsin native. There's a lot to like about Burleigh Grimes. Second place was the New York Giants. They finished with an 86 and 68 record. George Kelly, who played first base among other things, was the co-RBI leader in the National League for 1920 with 94. Other famous players, Hall of Famers, Dave Bancroft was their shortstop. He hit .299. Frankie Frisch played third base. He hit .280. And Ross Youngs was an outfielder who hit .351. In third place, a distant third, but third place nonetheless, 11 games off the mark with 82 and 71 record, was the Cincinnati Reds, who the year before, of course, were the National League pennant winners and the World Series champions over the White Sox, the Chicago White Sox. Ed Roush had a good year in 1920. He was their star outfielder, center fielder. He hit .339. Other stars of the National League in 1920 include Grover Alexander of the Cubs, who pitched 363 innings. I said 363 innings. And take this, Bob Gibson. He went 27 and 14 with a 1.91 ERA. Yikes. Behind the Cubs in the standings were the St. Louis Cardinals, and Rogers Hornsby, of course, was their star in 1920. He hit .370, and he was the other co-RBI leader in the National League with 94 of them. On the mound was Jesse Haynes for the Cardinals. He was their ace. He pitched in 47 games, 302 innings, and had a 13 and 20 record with a 2.98 ERA. All right, let's talk about the American League in 1920, because here's where history was made, of course, with the fatal beating of Ray Chapman by Carl Mays. That happened in this season. Chapman was killed at dusk, sort of, with a ball that was no longer white due to being used in the game, and died the next day of his injuries, of his skull fracture. Carl Mays was a member of the New York Yankees. At the time, he was the ace of their staff. In fact, in 1920, Carl Mays went 26-11 and was known as a couple of things. Number one, a borderline sidearm submariner. So that would be hard for Chapman to pick up in the dusk with a dark ball. And he threw hard by the standards of the time. And so Chapman likely never saw it coming. The changes that resulted in that was the use of more new baseballs and suspending games earlier due to darkness, and a change in the ball occurred as a result of that. And so 1920 is considered by most folks as the last dead ball season. And in the next season, things changed and the ball became livelier, power became more of an issue, and the 1920s, with definitely more extra base hits, more home runs, more runs scored, became a brand new era of baseball. So it's in this 1920, this pivotal 1920 season, that occurred. At the same time that all this was going on, the Chicago White Sox players were leading the American League and having, really, statistically, a better season than they did in 1919. Part of that was having Red Faber back and healthy on the mound. But their position players, not to a man, but generally speaking, were having better seasons as well. But then, in September, just as they were about to close in on the American League pennant, the suspensions hit, and the Indians were able to overtake them for the American League pennant. And in fact, the Indians went on behind manager Tris Speaker to win the World Series. The Indians were an excellent team. They just missed being a team that I put in the great teams of the 20th century sets for Pine Tar baseball. They were 88 and 50. I'm sorry, I can't read. They were 98 and 56. They had excellent players pretty much across the board. Chapman was a star shortstop. Larry Gardner had come from the Red Sox and was their third baseman. Tris Speaker was their big name. He was also their manager. Steve O'Neill was an excellent catcher. On the mound was where they really shined. Jim Bagby had a 2.89 ERA and 21 wins. Stan Kovaleski, 24 wins. Ray Caldwell, 20 wins. This team was loaded for the standards of the time on the mound. And they overtook the White Sox once the suspensions hit and took the American League pennant. So the White Sox finished in second place, 2 games off the pace, and they had all of the Black Sox stars left over, and they'll be carded in this set. People like Eddie Collins, Buck Weaver, Joe Jackson, Ray Schalk, and then on the mound, Red Faber, Eddie Cicotte, Lefty Williams, Dickie Kerr, an excellent team in their own right. Again, maybe the best of their run, but the suspensions took away their chances for the pennant. Not because they were suspended, but because the team just didn't play as well. In third place, 3 games back, were the New York Yankees, with Babe Ruth hitting 24 homers. No, that's not right. Sorry, Babe Ruth hitting 54 homers, the star of that team. And again, Carl May is the ace on the mound. The Browns were further back. They were 1 game under 500. George Sisler was the star of their team. Urban Shocker, one of the aces of their staff. Then come the Red Sox. Harry Hooper, their star outfielder. Then the Senators with Sam Rice. Then the Tigers with Ty Cobb, only with 61 wins. But Cobb hit 307. I'm sorry, Cobb hit 334, and bringing up the rear were the Philadelphia A's with only 48 wins and 106 losses. So it's that environment of the last dead ball season, these Hall of Fame players having great years, and the pivotal sort of turning point from dead ball to live ball era that makes 1920 so interesting, plus a historically great Indians team that came from behind to beat the White Sox. And you've got some interesting replay possibilities here as well, because, you know, if you don't take those White Sox out of the lineup, do they hang on for the pennant? Do they not? And then what happens when they go against Brooklyn or New York or whoever takes the replay on the National League side? So the 1920 is a very special season, and I think you're really going to like it for Pine Tar Baseball. That is our first season that is being created for Pine Tar with the December 15th date of release. We got another season coming for you. And this season is one that's not known so much for great pennant races, but it's known for great teams and great performances, individual performances, and memorable performances. And I'm talking about America's bicentennial year, 1976, the second year for Pine Tar that will be released on December 15th is 1976. There's a lot going on in 76. There have been some... and I should mention one other thing about 1920. If you haven't read The Pitch That Killed, it's a wonderful book about the Indians and about Ray Chapman and about Carl Mays and about all those events that I was talking about. I really, really strongly recommend it for you before you start to roll that set. All right, a lot of good books about the 70s as well. Roger Angel, the Plastic Grass book, I'm forgetting the title now. I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't have it. So all that is there as well. 1976 was marked in the National League by 2 teams that won over 100 games. The Philadelphia Phillies went 101 and 61. They were led on the mound, of course, by Steve Carlton, who won 20 games again. Their double play combination of Dave Cash and Larry Bowa. Mike Schmidt hit 38 homers. Greg Luzinski hit 304 with 21 homers of his own. Gary Maddox caught everything in sight and hit 330. They had a 3-headed monster in the bullpen of Ron Reed, Gene Garber, and Tug McGraw. This was a legitimately great team, and they got swept by the other 100-win team in the playoffs, and that was the 102 and 60 Cincinnati Reds, maybe the greatest of the Reds teams of the 70s, managed, of course, by Sparky Anderson. The Big Eight, Perez, Morgan, Concepcion, Rose, Foster, Geronimo, Griffey, and bench. Not a lot of bench after Dan Dreesen, but they didn't really need it. The team itself was the same pitching staff as in 1975, and then they added Pat Zachary to the starting rotation, so their pitching got better. And even though Will McEnany didn't have as good of a season, Raleigh Eastwick sort of came into his own as a closer. This is just a historically great team. Other notable teams in the National League, the Dodgers were in second place. They finished 10 games back, but they were a very good team too. It was Walter Alston's last year. He was replaced in late September by Tommy Lasorda, and that began Lasorda's run. The Astros, the Giants, the Padres, and then the Braves brought up the rear. Bill Madlock was the National League batting champion with 339. Joe Morgan was the slugging leader at 576. Schmidt led with home runs with 38, followed by Dave Kingman of the Mets with 37. Rose had 215 hits. Earned run leaders, John Denny of the Cardinals with a 2.52 ERA took the title. Doug Rout was second with 257, and Tom Seaver of the Yankees had a 259. Raleigh Eastwick was the league leader in saves with 26. It's a fun season. It's a season loaded with stars of the 70s, and it's a season that is not available in every other game system. And so I thought we'd bring it to you as something modern, but something also a little bit different from what everybody else is doing. In the American League in 1976, Billy Martin was having his first full year as Yankees manager. They won 97 games and won the American League East. Their stars were all the stars that would be part of the Yankee World Series teams of 77 and 78, except there was no Reggie Jackson and there was no Bucky Dent. So the lineup was Chambliss, Randolph, Stanley, Nettles, White, Rivers, Piniella, and some other folks. Thurman Munson was and Oscar Gamble. Thurman Munson was behind the plate, and the pitching staff was excellent as well. Guidry came along right at the end, but the starting rotation was very deep. Catfish Hunter, Doc Ellis, Ken Holtzman, Doyle Alexander, who people forget was a Yankee in the 70s, and, of course, Ed Figueroa. Sparky Lyle was the closer in the bullpen, so it was a very, very, very good Yankee team. Behind them, by 9 games, second place in the American League East was Earl Weaver's Baltimore Orioles. And the Baltimore Orioles in 1976 acquired the services of Reggie Jackson. This is Reggie Jackson's Baltimore season. This is Jim Palmer, one of Jim Palmer's big years. Over 300 innings pitched, 22-game winner. Another ho-hum year for Jim Palmer. The Red Sox, who of course went to the World Series as the American League pennant winners in 75, in 76 were in third place, and Darrell Johnson was let go as their manager in July. So it took him 4 months to get whacked after going to the World Series. Don Zimmer then took over. Down year for most of the Red Sox, and of course the injury to Bill Lee in the fight with the Yankees was a devastating blow as well. Frank Robinson, in his second year as manager of the Cleveland Indians, went 81 and 78. This was the Indians' best team of the decade, and Dennis Eckersley's rookie year. Then we come to the Detroit Tigers, who had the Rookie of the Year, maybe the Rookie of the Year of all time, and that was Mark Fidrych. Fidrych went 19-9 with a 2.34 ERA and 25 complete games. So Ralph Houck, yikes. But anyway, the Tigers are on YouTube that season playing the Yankees in the Fidrych coming out party of Monday Night Baseball. And he will be in this set, and this team will be in this set. Then come the hopeless Milwaukee Brewers in 1976, led by the even more hopeless Alex Grammas as their manager. In the American League West, the 90-win Kansas City Royals just overtook the Oakland Athletics, who won 87 games with Chuck Tanner and stole every base possible. So it's a really good race in the American League West, a three-game race that a three-team race with the Minnesota Twins only 5 games back in third place. That team in 76 could take the American League West in your replay. Dave Goltz, Jim Hughes, Bill Singer were on the mound and were pretty good pitchers. Bill Campbell, in 78 games and 20 saves, really made an impact on that race. Carew hit .331, and Bostock hit .323. Larry Heisel hit .272 with 14 homers. There was a lot of offense on that team as well, and it would be interesting to see if somebody could bring up those Twins from the outside and bring them in for a American League West Division title in a 76 replay. Dick Williams for the Angels was the Angels manager who got whacked and replaced by Norm Sherry. Texas was after them, and the White Sox in possibly their worst season of the decade brought up the rear with Paul Richards as their manager. Okay, so we have 2 seasons coming up with a projected release date of December 15th. I've told you a little bit about both seasons and why I'm excited about these sets. And my research process and even some carding has already taken place for both seasons. 1920 and 1976 will be your next 2 seasons available for Pine Tar Baseball. Thank you for being with me. Stay tuned for updates on my channel for how the set development is progressing. I'm going to come back with periodic updates and things that I'm noticing about the sets and keep you updated on the progress of the creation of the sets as well. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my channel to keep up with all the updates. Thank you for supporting Pine Tar Baseball, and we're looking to bring these to you very, very soon. Have a great day. So long, everybody.